Welcome to the latest edition of our daily briefing in sports and finance. I am Daniel Barriga and I am trying to create this space where the community shares the latest updates about this exciting ecosystem. Today I want to talk about MotoGP, one of my favorite competitions when growing up. As a Spanish person, we've had a lot of champions in this space in the names of Marc Marquez, Jorge Lorenzo, Dani Pedrosa, Alex Cribillé, and few others. And we've seen how after some years where the championship did not have that much visibility, Liberty Media entered into the space, acquired MotoGP from Dorna, the original creator, with Mr. Carmelo Ezpeleta being the leader of the competition, of the IP, and now we are seeing how more and more capital is coming into this ecosystem, and that's probably the reason why we've seen how a consortium led by IKON Capital, together with both Ventures and Main Street Advisors, have recently completed the acquisition of the Red Bull KTM Tech3 MotoGP team. The transaction, first announced publicly in September 2025, have finally been confirmed at close at the end of January. Ownership and operational control has been transferred at closing, and while no official purchase price or valuations have been confirmed by the parties involved, several media outlets are reporting figures close to $50 million for this deal to be happening. We don't have any formal communication from the buyer or the seller, but there are well-informed sources speaking about this $50 million figure. Immediately after the closing of the deal, a new management structure is going to be implemented, with Guenther Steiner being appointed as Chief Executive Officer of the team, with Richard Coleman assuming the role of team principal. Hervé Ponchagal, founder of Tech3 and a long-standing figure in MotoGP, is stepping away from day-to-day operational responsibilities and will move into a consulting role. Steiner's appointment represents a crossover from Formula One into MotoGP management. He is best known for his tenure as team principal of the Haas Formula One team from 2016 to the end of 2023 season. During that period, Steiner oversaw Haas' entry into Formula One, its peak competitive performance in 2018 with a fifth place finish in the Constructor Championship, and later seasons shaped by financial restructuring and cost discipline following the introduction of Formula One's budget cap regulations. Beyond his operational role, Steiner became one of the most recognizable figures in global motorsport through Netflix Drive to Survive, which significantly expanded his media profile and public visibility beyond the traditional motorsport audience. Going deeper into the acquiring consortium, we can see IKON Capital acting as the lead investor and coordinating platform behind the transaction. The firm has publicly identified Marcus Gloel and Damian O'Donoghue among its founding figures. IKON Capital presents itself as a sports-focused investment platform, assembling capital partners, operators, and strategic stakeholders around sports properties, rather than operating as a traditional single asset owner. We also have Bold Ventures as the second pillar of the consortium. This is an entity linked to US-based sports investors, and more specifically, we can find the figure of David Blitzer, whose ownership portfolio spans multiple major leagues. Blitzer holds interest across the NBA, NHL, NFL, as well as a growing presence in European football through stakes in clubs that include Crystal Palace, Augsburg, and the Danish team Brøndby. Blitzer's sports investments have typically focused on leagues with centralized governance structures and long-term media rights frameworks. As the third investor in this consortium, we also have Main Street Advisors led by Paul Wachter to complete the core ownership group. Wachter is a long-established figure in the US sports and entertainment ecosystem, known for advising and investing alongside high-profile athletes, franchises, and entertainment properties. Main Street Advisors operates at the intersection of advisory service and direct investment, often combining strategic guidance with capital deployment. In addition to these three principal entities, several minority investors have been disclosed as part of the transaction, including among them Pierre Gasly, the Formula One driver, who has become the first active Formula One driver to invest in a MotoGP team. Other named participants include Trail Slam, IKON Capital, Barry English of Penman Holdings, Tom Stafford, Charles de Carvalho, or Richard Cook of Dolphin Capitals, among others. No individual equity stakes have been made public. Founded by Hervé Poncharal, Tech3 has been a fixture in the MotoGP paddock for decades and currently is operating as an independent team, maintaining its technical partnership with KTM and continuing to race KTM machinery following the ownership change. The acquisition therefore will not alter Tech3's sporting status, licensing, or participation rights within the MotoGP World Championship. And for the 2026 season, Tech3 rider lineup will include Enea Bastianini and the Spanish driver Maverick Viñales, both contracted to compete aboard the KTM RC16 as the model for the new season is known. The Tech3 transaction is taking place against the backdrop of a broader structural change at championship level. In April 2024, we saw Liberty Media announcing an agreement to acquire a majority stake in MotoGP by purchasing approximately 86% of Dorna Sports, the commercial rights holder of the championship. The transaction was valued at that time valuing MotoGP at around 4.2 billion euros, including debt, according to figures reported at the time. The deal closed later in 2025, subject to regulatory approvals, with Liberty Media taking control of the championship commercial operations while leaving a minority stake with existing management. MotoGP has been operated by Dorna Sports since the early 90s under the leadership of Carmelo Ezpeleta, who has served as CEO since 1994. Under Ezpeleta's tenure, the championship expanded its global calendar, consolidated governance, and developed a stable commercial model based on long-term promoter agreements and broadcast contracts. Ezpeleta remained in his role following Liberty Media's acquisition, providing continuity at executive level. Liberty Media confirmed that MotoGP would continue to run by Dorna's existing management team, with Ezpeleta retaining operational responsibility for the championship. We have seen how this new consortium brings attention to the possibility of expansion of MotoGP in the US market, and taking a look into the historical relationship with the United States, we've seen how MotoGP has been present there intermittently. The championship previously held races at Laguna Seca and Indianapolis Motor Speedway before consolidating its US presence at the Circuit of America in Austin, Texas, which remains the sole American round of the calendar as the 2026 season. While MotoGP maintains a regular race in the United States, its commercial footprint in the market has historically been limited to Europe and Asia, with television audiences remaining relatively niche and the championship lacking consistent American rider representation in the Premier class since the era of riders such as Nicky Hayden, Ben Spice and Colin Edwards. Broadcast rights in the US have changed hands over time, moving from traditional sport networks to more streaming-focused distribution, but MotoGP has not yet achieved mainstream exposure compared to other global motorsport properties, as we've seen more recently with Formula One. Liberty Media acquisition of MotoGP followed its earlier purchase of Formula One in 2017, after which Formula One expanded significantly in the US market through new races, revised broadcast strategies, and increased commercial integration. While no immediate changes to MotoGP's US strategy have been announced, the championship now operates under the ownership of a US-based media group with established experience in sports commercialization. In parallel, the entry of US-based investors at team level through the Tech3 acquisition places MotoGP teams more directly within the US sport investment ecosystem, even as the championship core fan base and operations remain centered in Europe and Asia. We've seen how Main Street advisors were advised on the transaction by Latham and Watkins, with no additional legal or financial advisors being publicly disclosed and no forward-looking financial or commercial strategy being released by the ownership group yet. As the 2026 MotoGP season begins, Tech3 operates under its new ownership and management structure, with Steiner and Coleman overseeing executive and exporting operation, while the team continues to compete on the MotoGP grid without regulatory or sporting checks. To follow how ownership, governance, and capital are reshaping global sport properties, you can subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, and wait for new updates from us, hopefully by tomorrow in the next edition of our daily briefing. This is it for today. Thank you very much for joining. If you like these videos, mention like, subscribe. I would be loving to receive comments from your side and discuss wider on this acquisition by this US-based consortium. As mentioned, that's it. Hopefully we can see each other tomorrow again. Bye.